We're Hasani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, welcome everyone to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hasani.
And I'm Roderick.
And we're here as Couples Academy practitioners having a conversation that we started yesterday and continuing in it. We're talking about trust, how to restore, how to regain. Today, specifically, taking the steps to restore that trust when it's been lost, possibly due to a betrayal, whatever the case may be. And so we've been having some great foundational points we've been laying yesterday. We're going to continue in that conversation. But listen, just want to give you a heads up. We've been making these announcements. Want you to know that September the 9th through the 11th, 2022 is the Unearthed Women's Retreat. Make sure you sign up for that. You can go to the website and find out more information about that. Foundry is active. We are in week, 4 or 5. And many people have been asking, tell me more about this thing called Foundry. So we could talk about it, but when you hear about it from others who have gone through the process, it makes a difference. So check this out to see what Paul had to say about his experience in the Foundry program.
Hi, my name is Paul and I'm from St. George, Utah. I joined Foundry Men's Program. Prior to that, I was in financial ruin. I had the worst relationship with my wife, with my kids, and at work. I had lots of anxiety, confidence issues, and always anxious. Never spoke up. Joining the program, I learned to be 100% truthful with myself and my loved ones and my coworkers. My confidence raised up, my anxiousness plummeted, my capacity increased, my responsibility increased. I gave daily deposits to my wife, catered to her, and I was happy to do so. My wife was happy, I am happy, our relationship is much more blissful. The relationship with my children is much more blissful. I spend more time with them. Prior to this, I didn't spend any time with them, took them for granted, and I had no relationship with them. Now I have a wonderful relationship with them. I weekly have dates with them. I weekly have common interests with them that we enjoy together. We're always bonding. I'm gonna take these tools from Foundry that they taught me and use them for the rest of my life. I highly recommend Foundry for anybody. You're gonna learn the tools that you need to survive and succeed in this world and get anything that you want.
Foundry folks, listen, if you were looking for something to sink your teeth into that will make a significant change in your life, Foundry is that program. I mean, even you, Roderick, you're one of our practitioners, but you've also had the benefit of going through Foundry. What would you say to those who are kind of on the fence? Should I do this or should I not?
Sonny, I mean, if anybody's on the fence about Foundry, I would say go ahead and jump over the fence. It's that type of program. It's not necessarily something. I know a lot of people may see Couples Academy and what our core principles are, what we focus on regarding betrayal and infidelity. But the Foundry program is more than that. It's for any man that's looking to be more, in general, looking for ways to, how do I strengthen my masculinity? How do I refocus myself when it comes to goals, targets, plans? How do I address financial weaknesses? So, I mean, the Foundry is just a core program that addresses the core needs of every man, regardless if you're dealing with infidelity or you're just looking for a way of how can I be a better me as a man.
Well, there it is. He said it. I couldn't have said that better myself. And so reach out to us. Let's have a conversation. See how you can get involved. If you're a wife listening right now and you're like, man, my husband needs this. Well, listen, let's have that conversation because I think it would be transformational for him. Man, we got questions coming in already. We're going to get to that in just a second, but let's just go through these points here. Yesterday, we talked about the importance of establishing a trust bucket and what that looks like and how we need to fill the bucket up. And as we fill it up, we're making deposits into our spouse's life that restores the trust. And what things we need to be aware of that may be draining the bucket, right? Things that we do that compromise our ability to be trusted by our spouse, because maybe we're still involved in some behaviors and activities that are not conducive. But let's go to the next point. Listen, understanding the true impact of time, because we've heard this expression before, time heals all wounds. And I think things have been put in the culture for so long that they've become believable. And if we say it enough, we'll just believe it. And I don't necessarily agree with that statement. Time does not heal all wounds, because time is neutral, right? Some people get better with time. Some people get worse with time, and some people remain the same. So I don't think it's time necessarily, but what you do in the time that you've been given that makes a significant difference. What are your thoughts on that?
What you said is the core of it. What you do with that time. Because if you just sit back and relax and chill, thinking, okay, well, time is going to take care of it, guess what? Time won't help it. Time will actually make it worse, because you haven't taken advantage of that time. There's, everybody talks about time management, especially, from a business or a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You can manage time, but you can't control time. What you do in that time and how you manage it, how you manage your choices, how you manage those decisions, how you manage what goals and things that you do in that time makes the difference. So if you're just sitting back thinking, well, I'll just chill for a minute because, I'm going to give it some time, like they say, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. It's like the calendar is not a healing agent, right? You ask somebody who is a rape victim what time did for them. Well, it depends on that particular individual. It didn't make the memory go away. It didn't necessarily make the hurt and the harm go away, right? It still remained. I think what Sandy's saying is powerful. Time without action creates absolutely nothing.
Yes.
And that is a fact. And so, we take a very non-aggressive, just passive approach to change, and just expect, we're just waiting for something to happen. We're waiting for something to fall out of the sky. We're waiting for somebody to change our situation. Even the way we pray, God fix it, God do it all. And there's nothing in scripture that suggests that's the way that we need to do it. And so you have to become an active participant in your life in making sure that you're making the necessary changes within that period of time. And so, because at the end of the day, if you're dealing with someone who you've compromised their ability to trust you, they're using that time and they're paying attention to what you do, to what you say. They're looking at you, they're observing you, they're waiting to see how you're going to show up. So you should be using time as an opportunity. Even the Bible says, redeem the time. Redeeming the time, making the most of every opportunity, for the days are evil. And so that is our responsibility, to use every moment, every interaction that we have with our spouse as a trust building activity or expression, so that slowly but surely over the course of time, trust is restored in the relationship.
Well, and Sonny, one more point that I'd like to make. Because a lot of people say, well, I can just make up time. You cannot make up time. Now, what you can do is make new memories, show up differently, give your spouse something else to focus on and think about during the new time that you've been blessed with, so they don't simmer and hover in the old memories of the old time.
I think that that's a powerful statement, and I want everybody to pay attention to that because we want our spouses to just stop thinking about it. Why are you always going negative? Why are you always thinking about that past experience? Because you haven't given me any other experience to replace it, right? And so likewise, when people experience D-Day, that's why we say, on the anniversary of D-Day, whenever it is, you want to be intentional to create a new experience, a new memory that they can hold on to. So listen, it's your job to do certain things to help build their trust. But then the one who feels like they can't trust, they have their own internal work to do. And you can't play each other's role. You just have to do your part. And so I think that's an excellent point you just made. It kind of maybe leads into this question that JR just asked. Are there places you would recommend taking the betrayed spouse in order to relieve some of the emotional stresses that they are feeling? So they're caught up in their feelings and their emotions, and you just want to help out. Well, what I would say is ask her.
Yes.
Who better can you get an answer from than the one who you're trying to help heal?
Hasani, right? I mean, that's the crust of the matter, as they say. We have our spouses, and we're sitting there thinking about what can I do to make a difference? And we have our spouse right there. Open up and ask questions. What do you like to do? What do I need to do? One thing you always pointed out, Hasani, is the book of your spouse. That tool, creating a book of my spouse, allowed me to understand my spouse much, much better, allowed me to have those intimate conversations, ask questions. It gave me, for lack of a better term, an excuse to interview my wife. So I can learn more about my wife. So I can provide and have become a PhD about my wife.
So critically important. We talk about becoming a student of your spouse, and the more you know your spouse and learn your spouse, the more you'll be able to properly navigate in your relationship, how to communicate, how to interact, what buttons to push, what buttons not to push. And I think many of us have been living life on cruise control, right? Yes. And just going along with life and not playing an active role in it. And so this takes work, guys. There's no getting out of this. There's no, let me just hope and wish and pray and let everybody and everything take care of itself. No, you are going to have to dig in there and do some necessary work to restore the trust. And so that book, right, that book of your spouse is critically important. And I would encourage all people, if you don't have that, you need to get that because it makes a significant difference. Let's go to the next point. We're talking about how to restore trust, right? On some level, you have to admit your own powerlessness. Now, I don't mean helplessness, powerlessness, meaning you within yourself, with all of your own efforts, it may require more than just you. Maybe you don't have everything that you need. Maybe you don't know everything you need to know to be able to figure it out on your own. And so that is why you have to reach out for help. That is why there are resources available to assist you when you've gone as far as you can go. One of the mentors in my life once told me, Roderick, he said, your wisdom has taken you as far as you can go. Now you have to rely on someone else's wisdom to take you where you want to go. Because where you want to go, you're limited by what you know. Even Albert Einstein said that imagination is more powerful than knowledge because we're all limited by what we know. And so there's a world beyond our own understanding. And so when we realize that we're not the end all to be all and we don't have it all figured out and that we're powerless necessarily to control our situation, that's when we begin to rely on other sources, a higher power to help us through what we're going through to begin to restore the relationship.
And Sonny, that's tough for anybody, not gender specific. It's tough for men and it's tough for women to admit I'm powerless. I don't know what to do. I've done all I could do, and I'm still at a cross in the road. So to overcome that powerlessness, you have to believe in something higher than yourself, or believe in something bigger than yourself. And a lot of times that goes into our spirituality. A lot of times that goes into our meditation and really into seeking so we can find.
I think that's important. It just reminds me of a story that we're familiar with about a fly who's trying to get through a window, and he keeps bumping his head up against this window trying to get through. Like he can see through, but he doesn't realize that there's a barrier here, and it's this window, and I can't lift the window as the fly. I got to figure out another way. and he didn't, and he died. He thought, if I just do a little bit harder, if I just remain more committed to doing the same thing that doesn't work, eventually it will work. Yes. And he became powerless in his situation, and he ultimately was a dead fly on a windowsill. All he had to do was fly around the window to get to the other side, because there was an opening. And this is what I'm saying. Many of us are so addicted to the familiar. We're so committed to what does not work. And it's not helping our situation. When you begin to step out of your own way, and when you begin to lean on the wisdom of other people, it'll get you to your final destination.
Absolutely.
Listen, guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about taking steps to rebuild the trust in your relationship. We want to hear from you on the other side of this break. Are you struggling with trust issues in your relationship? What seems to be the problem? What questions do you have that we can speak to? We'll be right back right after this commercial.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
All right, guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Roderick Ford and myself, Hasani Pettiford, we're tag teaming this morning, talking about how to restore trust. A couple questions have come in. Carlene has a question. She says, what do you do when the spouse breaks the trust but does nothing to make the other partner feel secure? How would you answer that, Roderick?
Well, Colleen, I would answer it. I guess a few questions that I would have first is, why would he not want to answer any questions or be truthful? I would also wonder, what's his commitment to the relationship? So just a few questions, because in order to build the trust, it does take two. Like they said, it takes two to tango. So whether he's the betrayer or he's the betrayed, it still takes two to come to the understanding that, hey, we want the relationship. In order for us to move forward, there's going to have to be a tough conversation around truth and what has happened. There's going to have to be a vulnerability to be open about what has happened. And there's going to have to be some transparency. any type of reluctancy or any type of hesitation regarding truth telling or regarding trust building, then that's going to hinder the whole process. There's got to be a willingness between both parties, and there has to be grace on both parties.
Yeah, very true. One of the things that I would try to get down to is, I don't know specifically how it's manifesting in your relationship, but he broke the trust, but is doing nothing to make the partner feel secure. Well, have you had conversations about what it actually looks like? What you feeling secure in the marriage looks like? Is it crystal clear? I think, men and women speak different languages oftentimes, and we have different dialects, if you will. So we can be in the same conversation and, think that we're getting something across well, and we're actually not. And so one of the things that I would ask for you to do in your conversation is ask him to at least repeat back to you what it is that you're looking for from him, because his impression may be different than what you may feel like you're articulating quite well. I mean, I think I've had that in my own relationship. We just are not, for some reason, we just don't get it. We're not vibing. It's just not working. Like, how come you can't understand what I'm trying to say? Because I just don't hear what you're. And so sometimes you need a mediator to kind of facilitate that conversation, whoever that may be. But what I would do is I would write down, before you have your next conversation, clearly spell out what security means for you. Because truth be told, we have worked with a lot of clients, and I say, well, what specifically are you looking for? And I don't know. I don't know. Well, if you don't know, then he can't know. And so I want you to clarify it and make it specific, right? So for instance, in our Foundry group, when we're, going through lessons, if you will, I say, listen, give me the application to what you just learned. I mean, because that's a principle, that's a theory, that's a concept. It sounds good, but make it practical. Right? Give me the how to. So likewise, whatever security means for you, I want you to get beyond feeling words. Like, I want to feel safe, and I want to feel secure, and I want to feel special. Okay, great. But if I'm going to give you something that contributes to that feeling, or do something that contributes to that feeling, I got to make it touchable, tangible, concrete, and real for me. So what are the action steps? What are the how-tos? What are the details? Once those are clearly addressed, now you know that you're working from the same premise. And then you have a metric to measure him by, to see if he's showing up specifically in these ways or not. These are the levels of conversations I think are important to get you both on the same page. Let's go to another question. Shalice says, we can't afford an intensive right now, but help with the disclosure place is critical. Can it be done in 1 or 2 sessions with Couples Academy? I just don't trust anyone else with my marriage. Well, we appreciate the fact that you trust us. That means a lot for us. You do not have to go through an intensive to do the full disclosure portion of the recovery process. There's 3 things we focus on: your marital recovery, your individual recovery, and the affair recovery. So a part of the affair recovery, the first step in the 6 steps we guide you through, is full disclosure. So yes, it can be done in a session, but it cannot be done in an hour session. It cannot. So I would encourage you to do, at a minimum, we have something called a half-day solution, which is a 4-hour block of time, because you have to understand, it's more than just having the conversation. It's the preparation for the conversation that you need to be guided through. Like, trust me, I've only had 2 people in 10 years that have done a full disclosure in less than an hour. And in both times, they raced through it. They stuck to a script. It was like they were on a speed clock trying to speed through something, and neither of them got anything out of it because they didn't follow the proper protocol. So that would be my advice for you. You do not have to do an intensive, but certainly you could do, a number of hours at one particular time rather than having it stretched out over the course of time. And I think that would serve you well. Let's go to another point here, Roderick. We're talking about how to restore trust. Now, one of the ways which trust has to be restored, because it really has impacted relationships, is in the area of sexuality, right? Because if we're talking about a betrayal, a sexual betrayal, then there's a whole issue around the sex conversation. And so in essence, what we want to do is we want to reevaluate sexual intimacy and what that now looks like in a relationship. Take that away.
Well, so usually when there's a sexual betrayal, regardless of the husband or the wife, there is there could be a tendency for the offended spouse to ramp things up, whether that means more frequency of sex or open up to different versions of sex, thinking that would be the solution to the problem, when in reality, that's not even at the surface of the issue. Usually it's a deeper rooted issue that drove that betrayer to portray the spouse, his or her spouse.
I think that's an excellent point, because if I have, let's just say, people like to use this word loosely, a sex addiction, or a high drive for sex or whatever, and let's just say I'm just bored, we don't have it enough, we're not connected, the easy answer would be, well, have more sex and have more creative sex, and that solves the problem. And to your point, it's a deeper issue than that. Though the problem is showing up in the area of your sex, it can also speak to a deeper issue. So more sex and more creative sex, though good, there's nothing wrong with that. It could be like putting a Band-Aid on a laceration that requires surgery, right?
Absolutely.
And so if a person happens to have a stronghold in the area of their sexuality and they're just driven by a lust, and you now give them more of what doesn't even satisfy that lust, because it's almost like a thirst that cannot be quenched. It's an insatiable desire. And so having more doesn't solve the problem. I'm not saying shut it down and don't, but that's not a problem solver. And also we see where now, a husband could use his wife for masturbation purposes, right? Yes. I'm using you as a vessel and a conduit to have my need met. So it's not about intimacy. It's about my release. It's about a feeling that I'm chasing, right?
Exactly. And that feeling is why you're there why you're there in the first place. That spouse was seeking out, looking for a feeling outside of the marriage. So if that spouse, the betrayed spouse, decides, okay, I'm just going to ramp things up, now you are contributing to that addiction, we're going to say, instead of contributing to the recovery.
So we need to reevaluate what intimacy looks like. And, usually when we're dealing with sex, we're focusing on sexual intimacy as if other components aren't involved in that process. When you engage in sex with your spouse, you're bringing all of you into that experience. You're bringing your heart, you're bringing your mind, you're bringing your soul, you're bringing your intellect, you're bringing your body. It's all of you. You can't compartmentalize. And so if we approach sex and just look at it as, oh, it's just a physical release, then now it feels more like a prostitute John relationship. And so now my spouse has become my alternative prostitute, right? Because it's legal, but you're missing so much. Like, the gift of sexual intimacy far exceeds just vaginal penile sex, right? I think the society has cheapened what sex is. Porn has cheapened what sex is, and we're looking at it in such a way that is not serving. It's self-serving, but it doesn't serve the relationship. And having conversation about that is important. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Hasani, and obviously we have at Couples Academy a show on Tuesday with Lakeisha. They can address this a lot more than I know I can. However, because of that cheapening of intimacy and just looking at the physical sexual side, that's exactly what we've done. We've taken away the intimacy, the value of intimacy in our whole relationship, in our whole marriage. So it's creating an emptiness, because all we're focusing on is the physical piece, versus the mental, the spiritual, the emotional intimacy that makes up that ecstasy that we're looking for in the physical side.
There it is. That's facts. And see, this is such a deeper conversation than what we have time for in today's conversation. Actually, we've reached the point where we've come to an end, but we're going to continue this tomorrow. I think we're going to extend that over. So listen, if you're watching, thank you for tuning in. Sandy, I see your question. We'll answer that at the top of the session tomorrow. But until then, guys, have a great day. Love you all. Appreciate your commitment to the show. We'll see you in the morning.